So what movie is my cousin afraid to watch? That would be Salo, or 120 Days of Sodom. Now, he's not actually, like, scared, afraid to watch it or anything like that. This is me needling him to get him to actually watch the movie. Because every time he has an opportunity to watch it, he comes up with a reason not to, so that's the reason why. But it's one of those films that sticks with you. The first time I watched it, it bothered me for about 2 weeks. It's not gory. It's not, there's not some sort of level of violence like we see in films today. There's not, like, extreme special effects or anything like that. But there are many, many scenes that will stick to your mind and keep you thinking about them long after you've watched the film. So it is very effective. The director actually had planned the film not to be, like torture porn or anything like that, but it is a treatise on war. And I understand directors doing that type of thing, because the director of a Serbian film did the same thing. The film is representative of the horrors depicted during war in an area that the film is located. So I think a lot of people discount these extreme horror films as being something different than what they actually are meant for. The one thing about Salo that really gets to me personally is the fact that I'm kind of a germaphobe. And Salo has numerous scenes of these actors eating what's supposed to be poop. And that just gives me the squidges and eeky. Thank goodness the actors didn't actually eat poop. They're actually eating, like, chocolate and stuff. I am so thankful for knowing that. But the film, it's one of those things where it's well acted just enough to make you afraid you're watching something that actually happened to someone else. Some of the things in it are a little weird, like there's a section where, like, certain characters, like, tell their life stories. In the midst of these life stories, there's, like, weird sexual scenes and stuff like that. So this is definitely more along the lines of an exploitation film versus a horror film. But basically, it's just an excuse to put another human being through horrors at a successive rate. So one thing that, people tend to think about when they watch the film is that some of the actors look very young. I am not sure if any of the actors were underage when they starred in the film. At one point, the information said that everyone was of age, so I'm hoping that's the case. But there's also been a lot of people that said they weren't. So look at all the information, come to your own decision on that part. I do not like the idea of an underage actor or actress starring in a film depicting this much extreme themes and experiencing it even if it's fake. I don't think it's appropriate. I think there's too many people in the world that have a tendency to get their jollies from something like that, and I'm not going to, like, say that anything should be depicted on screen for art's sake. I'm also not a huge fan of rape as a plot device. One thing about Salo is that it's not a plot device, it's the norm, which is also another thing that makes it very horrifying. The other thing I like about it is that it's not just the women that are raped in the film, which is kind of like the standard, like, fallback. The men and the women are raped pretty much equally in the film. So that I have to give the director props for. At any rate, the fact that this film was created in such an earlier time period and it had equality in terms of the graphic nature of the film, I definitely give the director props for that, because now, it's so standard to see, nude females on film but not nude males, even though, body parts are body parts. And I said that I think that says a lot about, our modern society and its treatment toward women. The other thing that really hammers home to me about Salo is that ultimately the film is not depicted in such a way to make you like what you're seeing. And for that, I think it's also a very powerful film. The fact that it is part of the Criterion Collection now also says leagues about what masterful filmmaking is like when you can look beyond the horror. There's actually very few horror films that are part of the Criterion Collection. And I think in general people tend to write horror off as like, oh, ho hum, it's a horror film, whatever. But there's a lot of really, really amazing filmmaking in the genre of horror. The set that was used in the film, which, since the film was shot in Italy, they were lucky to have access to, these amazing buildings that don't exist in the United States. If you would try to make a film like that in the United States, you would end up spending a lot of money creating sets and things to look like what those old films looked like, and it would actually be cheaper to shoot them in the other countries. But the set also, further solidifies the director's overall theme, because you have these aristocrats essentially have kidnapped this group of young teens who are taken to this fortress and forced to do pretty much whatever the aristocrat thinks is fun. And what I mean by fun is the worst thing they could think of to do to another person to exert power over them. There are scenes that I don't necessarily think are shocking to viewers now, but for the average moviegoer, they wouldn't want to watch it, if that makes any sense. The other thing is the final scene is not shocking for the fact that, and this is a spoiler, so if you don't want to know what the final scene is, then, switch this off. But the final scene depicts, like, one of the few aristocrats left, because throughout this thing, there's deaths happening and everything. And he's sitting there in a chair watching one of, a few of the, last deaths. And, this boy has his genitals mutilated in the middle of the courtyard and then is killed. What is shocking about the last scene is actually not so much the mutilation and the death or anything, but the fact that that lone aristocrat is sitting there just nonchalantly, it's no big deal, whatever. He's been desensitized to the point that none of that strikes a nerve. And that in and of itself is a horrific idea. So if you've never seen Salo and you are an extreme horror film fanatic, I think it's definitely one that you should add to your list to watch. But I'm not going to be super gatekeepery and say, oh my god, you have to watch this movie because without it you're not a horror fan. No, there's certain people that have a desire to enjoy film and enjoy film history. And if you're a person that really enjoys film history and wants to really experience the art of different filmmakers, the emotional responses that these filmmakers present, then I think it's an important film to watch. But I don't think that as a general horror fan, it's a movie that people should seek out and find and definitely watch. But for my cousin, since he's on this quest with me to watch every film made from the beginning of filmmaking to the year 2000 that's in the horror genre, he needs to watch it. So this review is an homage to my cousin Josh, so hopefully soon we'll watch the film together, and then at a later date we'll have him come on the channel and he can discuss his thoughts on Salo. So comment down below with a film that you think is important for film historians to watch. And until next time, bye.